So a stand-up for C-SPAN is basically when you yourself are in front of the camera and you add detail that maybe your interviewees don't add, and so it advances your story.
So if you're going to be entering this competition, I would highly recommend that you appear on camera to talk about your issue. And this is something you won't see in a lot of documentaries out there, but it is something that's quite common in C-SPAN, and it's something that works, I think, because it really puts you in the issue and helps people relate to you and see how you feel about this issue, and that's why you're making this documentary in the first place.
My 18th birthday is in the summer of 2016, which means that I'm going to get to vote in the 2016 general election, and I'm looking for a candidate who's going to address this issue. So I did some research, and I prepared a presentation of all the different candidates' plans to address mental health.
Obviously, if you're not used to talking on camera, it can be really nerve-wracking. And it's also different than talking to people. Looking straight into the lens of a camera and talking is much different than talking to another person or even performing for another person. So it is a different experience, and it can take some getting used to.
The condition of mental health care actually varies a lot from state to state, because individual state governments are the ones that decide things such as funding for mental health care in their states. So today I visited the state capitol in Oklahoma City to attend a budget hearing for the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to see what was going on with my state department for mental health care.
One of my biggest recommendations is just practice your stuff. It's going to be a little bit awkward, especially since it's probably just going to be you and a camera to go out, oftentimes in a public place like I was doing, and just talk at full volume to a camera. So one of the things I would recommend doing is practicing, get an idea of what you're going to say. Depending on who you are, it might help or it might not to have it planned out beforehand.
If I walked up to you like this, you would likely understand that I had a physical impairment and wouldn't think that there's anything wrong with me as a person. But if I walked up to you like this and were suffering from a mental illness, you might not understand that I'm still suffering from something that's outside of my control, and you could easily misinterpret it as being in a bad mood or having a character flaw.
I like to outline in my head what I'm going to say. I personally don't like to write out a speech and then read that to the camera, because to me at least, that makes me more stilted. Whereas if I just know what I'm thinking and I have a general outline in my head of what I'm going to say, I can stay organized, but I'm not hung up on whatever specific wording I wrote. So I would actually recommend not trying to memorize something, but maybe that will help you. And then again, the other thing would just be practice what you're going to say, and you will eventually be comfortable doing it.
Our teacher encouraged us to be in the piece ourselves, and I knew that just standing there wouldn't be very interesting, so one of the first things I did was physically put my hands in dirt to talk about how people need to be employed and get the job done and get your hands dirty. So that was a creative element that I think really enhanced the piece. As Americans, we're all about getting our hands dirty, increasing the labor force, and putting people to work. Throughout our country's history, though, there's been one group left behind. The first take of the stand-up, I was very uncomfortable, very nervous, because I'm very used to being behind the camera. So I just kind of had to pretend like it wasn't there. I had to set it up and make sure the shot was right, and then just pretend like I was in a room by myself and with nobody who was ever going to see it to make myself more comfortable. I probably had like 20 bad takes before I got a good one where I actually seemed not stiff and nervous.